Hey friends, welcome back to your virtual studio. We're going to get into a CARS practice today. Now this practice is going to be both in the low impact class library and in the high intensity. This will be low impact. We're not doing any jumping or any sort of big stuff, but it is higher intensity in the way that I am going to practice. For example, if you want to keep it low and just a little bit more relaxed, the way that I would practice a shoulder CAR, for example, first thing in the morning, is just nice and soft. I'm lifting my arm, moving it out, internally rotating, and I'm not irradiating my muscles a whole lot. I'm not squeezing my muscles a whole lot, but in this session, I'm going to practice and I might cue just a little bit of higher intensity. And so that might mean that I'm going to squeeze my muscles a bit more, right? And it can be without anything in your hand. I might squeeze, maybe make a fist, just to invite that muscle irradiation, those muscle contractions, that power, as if I'm lifting a heavy weight, a heavy load, right? And so, and I'm even like, you can hear the change in my voice because I'm moving, I'm working really hard here. And that's about 80–90% effort versus, a little slower, maybe practice at 50%, 40%. If you want to step today into more of a strength training practice, get yourself something to squeeze, like a little ball. And I also have my handy dandy mobility stick. This is actually just a broomstick, which I've just removed the broom head. And it's not totally necessary. We're gonna play with it just once with doing some spinal movements, but no big deal if you don't have that. That's like really very tiny part of the practice and hardly need it. And that's it. I am going to be starting in a kneeling position. And so I have a blanket here to be that extra layer of support for my knees. If you know that being in a kneeling position is not going to be comfortable for you for a long time, you can start standing up, all right? So we're going to want access to the entire trunk. So keeping the pelvis a little lifted, either kneeling or standing, all right? Okay, if you're starting in a kneeling position, as you can see here, I'm widening my knees just to create a bit of a wider base. We're gonna be in this kneeling position for quite a little bit. And as you can see, I'm holding 2 balls, not 1. I should have mentioned that earlier. So if you do have 2, give them a little squeeze if that's what you're going for in today's practice. And if you only have 1, just make a fist with both hands at this time, and then you can use the 1 ball when we move into our shoulder CARs, all right? Here, we're already using the balls or just that sense of irradiation if you're going for that high intensity practice, because we're gonna start with the neck. But if we're doing that high intensity practice, we really want to make sure that our muscles are contracting to stabilize everything in the body. Nothing in the body moves, just the neck. Begin to tuck your chin. Moving the chin to the left shoulder, grazing the collarbone. Tip the ear back, lift the chin. Moving across to the opposite side. Try to look behind you as much as you can without rotating your trunk or rib cage. Then tuck your chin, graze your collarbone back to center. Repeat. Try to tuck as much as you can. I'm not able to tuck as much because I might move into my microphone, and that's not going to sound very nice. But if you're irradiating your muscles here, squeezing into the ball, you're doing this nice and slow. Switch the direction. So we're going to do about 2. If you're irradiating with high intensity, we're doing about 2 with really high intensity. If you are doing lower intensity, you're probably moving a little bit faster, and so you can do a few more. Good, let's meet back at center. Now hug your arms or cross the forearms in front of you, bringing your hands towards the shoulders, still giving your hands a squeeze if you're doing that high intensity practice. Our arms are crossed in front of our sternum. Tuck the tailbone down so that the pelvis is in one locked position. It's not going to move. The lower back is not going to move, only the upper spine. And let's also tuck the chin so that the neck doesn't move. This is just for the thoracic spine. So if the chin is tucked, then hug your rib cage in, sternum in. Rotate towards the left side. Keep your legs nice and sturdy. And then tip the left shoulder, moving into a lateral bend, so sideways. Start to lift the heart, lift the sternum. Keep the chin tucked so your neck isn't part of it, just the thoracic spine. Now we've tipped over, finding a lateral bend in the other side with our rotation. And then curling back, hugging the sternum back through center. One more time here. Big squeeze. Or you're moving the heart through a few more circles if you're doing less intensity here. Rotate after you do that lateral bend, come back through center and switch sides. Rotate, keep that pelvis sturdy. Take your lateral bend, squeeze, we're moving slowly. If you're doing that high intensity, you're moving slowly. Slow means hard and controlled. Good. Good, we move back through center, start to release. You can take a breath and then reset. This time bringing your arms forward and push your fists or your hands forward. Also widen out the arms a little bit, just a little bit wider than shoulder width. For scapular cars, we're gonna push our arms forward, spreading the shoulder blades apart. So that's scapular protraction. While they're forward and spread apart, lift them up towards your ears. Squeeze them together while they're up there. And then while they're squeezed, slide them down into your back pockets. While they're down there, push them forward, separate. Notice how your hands also move forward. Lift the shoulder blades, squeeze. Notice that my hands are trying not to move up and down so much. My shoulder point, the shoulder head, is what's moving mostly up and down as best as possible, right? Where the hands, so you're switching directions already, your hands are really just gliding forward and back. The shoulder head is what's kind of doing that locomotion movement. And then we let it go. Moving into our shoulder cars. So this time here, now we only need just the one ball. My little friend here, do you want the ball, baby? My little puppy is wondering what I'm doing with his toys. All right, now that the dogs are okay, let's get back to our shoulder cars. Again, if you're going for a high intensity practice, let's take the right hand somewhere around the left side of the rib cage just to remind us and give us a little feedback that our trunk is not gonna rotate forward. Our spine is not gonna be part of this movement, just the shoulder. If you're taking a high intensity practice, squeeze or choose your level of irradiation and begin your shoulder cars. We're gonna actually begin by bringing the arm forward, but across the body. And then externally rotate the arm bone here, all right? So whether you're doing high or low intensity practice, start here for a moment, bring the arm in, make sure the spine hasn't done any rotation. And with that external rotation, continue to lift upwards. Then start to move the arm away from the ear. Continue here at your pace. I'm squeezing the ball and I'm going for 80%-ish irradiation. and then taking it down. So again, you might be going faster than me if you're taking less intensity. Squeezing here, nothing else is moving if you're taking the higher intensity practice. Coming back to where you started. So we start with that movement of adduction of the arm, bringing the arm bone in towards the trunk. Resist the urge to twist. Find the rotational movement in the arm. Good. And let's switch sides. Squeeze, take your level of irradiation, bring the arm in, right? So we feel the muscles in the chest that bring the arm bone, but also these are our pushing muscles, right? That's also your scapular protraction. Scapula's forward. Take your level of irradiation and lift the arm up. Moving away, find your internal rotation. Squeezing if you're going for that high intensity. It's a heavy, heavy load. Or softer. You choose. Find that external rotation as you bring the arm forward. Doesn't matter what level of intensity, but find that rotational movement. Here it's external. Once it starts to reach off to the side, a little internal. Good, finishing out. Beautiful, let it go. Now, if you've got the two balls, go ahead and take them again. We stay kneeling here or standing if you need to. Remember to stand up at any time, all right? Otherwise, widen that base. We're moving into our elbow car, starting with the arms down, scapula's down, forearms facing forward, and the arms are hugging. Everyone's hugging the arms in towards the side of the trunk, no matter what kind of intensity we're doing, all right? Squeeze to your level of intensity, and then externally rotate just the forearms further, right? So imagine turning to have your wrists really face the side of the room, but your biceps are still facing forward, right? This is just below the elbow, right? And just to assess the pronation or the internal rotation right here, let's internally rotate. Forearms and wrists now are facing inward. And then externally rotate, keep the external rotation, keep the arm squeezed to the upper body, and then lift to bend your elbow, but you decide what you're lifting here. If you're already there, stay there for a moment and just squeeze whatever imaginary object you're pressing in between your elbows. While you're there, internally rotate. And then re-extend the elbows. Once you're down, externally rotate again and fold the elbows with the forearms facing up, just in case you're going faster than me. Otherwise, we're externally rotating. Good, but if you're going high intensity with me here, we're going to switch it up. So here, the next time that your forearms are facing down, reverse the work. Forearms facing forward, so back of the hand leads the way. Then externally rotate. Right, so just switching it out. Open, squeeze. Then you internally rotate down here. Pull, squeeze if you're going for that high intensity. Rotate, extend, And we move into wrist cars. Take a little break, shake it out, reset. Whether you're holding something or not, decide your level of intensity. Give the hands a little bit of a squeeze and bring the hands in towards the pinky side. So just the wrist joint here. We're locking the elbows. Everyone's locking the elbows into the side of the body so that only the wrist is moving and no more rotation of the forearm, right? Just the wrist. All right, so I always like to demonstrate. This looks so uneven. Why does it look so uneven? Oh, yes. I'm looking at a screen and I'm losing my perspective, or like where I am in space, where my forearms are in space. All right. So once you've done your wrist cars, let it go. And if you're really squeezing your hands or squeezing anything, you might want to shake out your hands, wiggle your fingers. And then we'll move into some quick finger articulations. Make a little claw articulating your fingers, and then a fist. Close the fist, claw, open, claw, close, claw, open. And now let's move. I'm actually gonna move towards a kneeling position here. We're gonna stay in this kneeling position. So if you'd like to take maybe a block underneath the sits bones, that's an option, or kind of fold the blanket as that block if your block is not around. And then if you've got your mobility stick, we're gonna place that stick in front of us, or you're just gonna reach your arms forward as if you were holding. So you're gonna interlace your fingers as if you were holding, and really pressing down to really root if you're going for that high intensity practice. Otherwise, you're just holding anything soft. You can bring your arms forward, or your hands can even be down if you're going for that softer practice. We're going to articulate our spine. All right, so take your pick. If you're holding the stick, you're just holding one hand over the other. Give the hands, give your muscles whatever level of squeeze they're going to have. Become aware next of just the natural curves of your spine. From here, tuck your tailbone, just your tailbone. Then start to round your spine, hugging the sternum in slowly. Tuck the chin last. Keep the chin tucked for as long as you can, especially if you're going high intensity, and then just lift the tailbone. Shift the neck segment of your spine forward, then the sternum. Then you can lift the chin as much as you can, trying to find the highest point on the ceiling that is comfortable for the neck. You're not tossing it back to gravity. These are your neck extensors working. From here, keep that chin lifted, tuck the tail. And slowly move back to your articulation. Take it again, starting from the pelvis. Segment by segment, keep the chin lifted for as long as you can. And then back to a neutral spine. Take a little breath. Release your mobility stick, and let's come into a side lying position next. You can use your blanket or a pillow or a block as some support for the head as you arrive to your side lying position. Make sure the trunk feels nice and stacked, spine nice and neutral. And if you're going for high intensity, we're going to bend the elbow, press our hand into the ground as if we're really pushing into the earth, like really crushing it. Or if you have a ball or you have that stick, anything you want to squeeze to give you that muscle irradiation, or take it a little bit more chill. Decide your level of irradiation, flex your feet, everyone, and then let's lift the leg up, going into our hip cars. As the leg lifts, make sure that the pelvis has not rotated, so we're not moving into a spinal twist, right? Feel, you can even bring your hand into the side of the hip for a moment, or keep it there the whole time, no matter what intensity you're doing. Internally rotate here, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze as you bring the knee back. So again, I'm going really slow because we're going about 90, 80% irradiation. Flexing upwards. I'm still making sure that my lower back isn't moving. Lifting up. Internally rotating. Squeezing back, pushing my foot to that imaginary space. Good, now I'm gonna switch it out. So I'm gonna go back, lifting through the side of the hip, woo, externally rotating here, moving into hip flexion. Squeeze. Lift. Again, this is just for the thigh bone, just for the hip. Good. Once you've done your hip cars on this side, go ahead, lengthen the leg, push away, and switch sides. You can either flip over to the other side or do a little spin, just like I did. Good. So resetting, bottom arm has some space. We're nice and comfortable here, well supported. Choose your level of irradiation, flex the feet, lift the leg. Remember to lift just to the point before the pelvis wants to move. Then internally rotate at that point, bringing the leg down, squeeze. Yeah, making sure that I am going as high intensity as I can find. Good, I'm just going for 2 in each direction. Take your time, your pace, your control. Add more or less. Good, find that control. Notice no movement through the rib cage, no rotating through the spine. Good, and then let it go. Let's move to a seated position. Getting into our knee cars. From this seated position, we're gonna tuck the left foot in, have the right foot in front of you. Flexing the ankle, and then go ahead and hook your right arm under the knee. Lift and give yourself a little hug. I am clasping my hands here. Like anything you want to do here, some folks will bring their hand around their knee and their opposite hand around the bicep or elbow. So this is one way that you can hold on, or just clasp your hands here. All right, knee cars. Let's start with our foot flexed and knee flexion, which means that we're folding the knee and squeezing our arm a little bit or a lot of it. Extend the knee until you can extend no more. Provide whatever amount of resistance you're going for today and rebend. One more. Now, as you squeeze, keep the knees flexed, keep the knees bent, and externally rotate the lower leg bone. So this is with the shin bone, right? Now extend the knee. Keep the foot as it is. Rebend. Repeat if you're going a little faster, or go slow. Squeeze, resist. While you're up there, switch out the position of the foot and the rotation of the shin bone. Squeeze. Same position, even though my friend is blocking the way here. Same position of the foot. Good. Let's re-extend for the last time to bring the foot back to center. Flex, squeeze, ankle cars. While the foot or while the knee is bent, rotate. Yes, Washburn, you gotta go. You're in the way, buddy. All right, rotate the ankle. So pinky side, this is our tibial rotation as well. And then point down. Point in, up. Pretend if you're going for that high intensity, you're moving really slow as if you're trying to clean something really sticky from some surface. And then switch. All right. And then we get to put it down, let it go. My dogs are so active in today's session. Do not know why. Let's go ahead and switch sides, tucking this right foot in. We have access now to the left leg. We're gonna hook our left arm, grabbing a hold of our left leg. Take your clasp or your hold of choice and irradiate to the level of choice. So we're squeezing if you're going for that high intensity. And then extend with some resistance or not. Squeeze, foot is flexed, and extend. Good. The next time we bend, we're gonna rotate the foot towards the left, so towards the pinky, and lift as if to extend and guide with the arch of the foot. And then as we bend, we lead with the outer edge of the foot. Extend as much as you can. And then switch the rotation of the foot. Bending and extending the knee with this new position in the ankle. Good. Let's meet back at center through that ankle. Bend, drop the foot. And now place both feet in front of you. We're going to finish out with the toes. So just from here, just hanging out, we're going to spread the toes and really grip the mat or the floor with our toes. Try lifting just the big toes and giving them a couple of taps. And they may lift, they may not lift. Again, just try to create the effort. And if they're not really lifting for you, you can hold and just manually, do this manually with your toes, right? Your tissue, your nervous system will still benefit from that manual movement, and then maybe eventually kind of bring back more of that active mobility, right? Or you're still tapping. And then you can switch. Big toe stays still, other toes begin to tap. Good. Now keep everything down, all the toes down. Try to lift just the toes and then slowly lift all the other toes as best as you can until the pinkies come up last. Then pinky, fourth toe, third toe, second toe, first toe, and kind of lifting up in that slow articulation. And right back down as best as you can. It's all right. And again, you can do this manually. You can just literally like give your toes some wiggles, give them some lifts if they're not moving, right? Or do your little piano. And that is it. That is your CARS practice. You can take a moment. You want to just let that go, release, and just take a few breaths on your own. Before you carry on with your day, before you carry on with your practice, and just decide how you'd like to close this out. I'll share 3 breaths with you. A breath in through the nose, a cleansing breath out, a full breath in, and full release, and a final breath. Enjoy your space, your practice, and be well.